Ladies and gentlemen, what if the next 24 hours held the power to change everything? Not because of luck, not because someone suddenly rescues you, not because the world finally becomes fair, but because of one decision, one thought, one action, one moment of courage. Think about that for a second. Tomorrow, at this exact time, your life could already be moving in a completely different direction. A conversation you've been afraid to have could finally happen. The habit that's been holding you back could finally end. The dream you've postponed for years could finally begin. The forgiveness you've refused to give could finally set you free. Most people believe change takes years. Sometimes it does. But every great transformation begins in a single moment. A seed does not become a tree overnight. Yet everything changes the moment it is planted. That first moment matters. And perhaps this very moment is your seed. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something remarkable about the human mind. It can replay yesterday thousands of times. It can worry about tomorrow endlessly. Yet it often forgets the incredible power hidden inside today. The only place where life can actually change is the present moment. Not yesterday, not next month, not someday. Today, right now. This breath, this decision, this choice. Too many people spend their lives waiting for perfect conditions, waiting until they feel confident, waiting until fear disappears, waiting until someone believes in them. But life rewards movement, not waiting. Courage does not arrive before action. Courage grows because of action. Imagine standing before two doors. One door is labeled comfort. The other is labeled growth. Most people choose comfort because it feels safe. But comfort rarely changes your life. Growth almost always begins with uncertainty. Every successful person has walked through that second door, not because they knew exactly what would happen, but because they trusted that becoming uncomfortable was the price of becoming extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, the next 24 hours are not magical because time itself is magical. They are powerful because your decisions are powerful. Within the next day, you can decide to forgive someone who hurt you. You can decide to forgive yourself. You can decide to stop speaking negatively about yourself. You can decide to begin reading instead of endlessly scrolling. You can decide to exercise, to pray, to meditate, to write, to create, to begin. Small decisions repeated consistently create extraordinary lives. Never underestimate what one intentional day can begin. The greatest obstacle standing between the life you have and the life you desire is rarely a lack of opportunity. It is hesitation. It is the quiet voice that whispers, maybe tomorrow. But tomorrow has stolen more dreams than failure ever has. Every day that passes without action strengthens the habit of waiting. And waiting slowly becomes a way of life. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine standing on the edge of a river. You know the life you want exists on the other side. You can see it. You can almost feel it. But fear convinces you to remain where you are because the familiar feels safer than the unknown. The truth is that no bridge appears until you begin walking. Faith is not seeing every step before you move. Faith is taking the first step and trusting that the next one will reveal itself. Many people believe that confidence comes first. It doesn't. Action comes first. Confidence is simply the reward for acting despite uncertainty. Every successful person you admire once felt afraid. They questioned themselves. They wondered whether they were good enough. They experienced rejection. They failed. The difference was never the absence of fear. The difference was that they refused to let fear become the author of their future. Ladies and gentlemen, think about how powerful your thoughts really are. Every thought is like planting a seed in the garden of your mind. Some seeds grow into hope. Others grow into anxiety. Some produce gratitude. Others produce resentment. Your mind does not always question what you repeatedly tell it. It simply begins to believe it. If every morning you say, "I'm not capable," your actions will reflect that belief. If every morning you remind yourself, "I am growing, I am learning, I am becoming stronger," your life begins to move in that direction. Your inner conversation quietly becomes your outer reality. That is why protecting your mind is one of the greatest responsibilities you have. Not Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your energy. Not every fear deserves your belief. Choose carefully what you allow to live inside your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment when you must stop asking whether life is being fair. Life has never promised fairness, but it always offers choices. You can choose resentment or gratitude. You can choose excuses or responsibility. You can choose comfort or growth. These choices seem small in the moment, yet they shape your destiny over time. Imagine two people facing the same difficult situation. One spends the next 24 hours complaining about everything that went wrong. The other spends those same 24 hours asking, what can this teach me? Both experience the same event, but only one experiences transformation. Perspective changes everything. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not that your circumstances change overnight. The greatest miracle is that you begin seeing those circumstances through new eyes. And when your perspective changes, your decisions begin to change. When your decisions change, your habits begin to change. When your habits change, your future begins changing. Ladies and gentlemen, stop underestimating the power of one disciplined day. One day of choosing courage instead of fear. One day of replacing excuses with action. One day of speaking kindly to yourself. One day of forgiving instead of carrying bitterness. One day of refusing to quit. One day becomes another. Another becomes a week. A week becomes a month. And eventually, people look at your life and call it success. What they don't see are the thousands of ordinary moments that quietly created extraordinary results. Greatness is never built in one dramatic moment. It is built through consistent decisions repeated when no one is watching. The world celebrates victories, but victories are born in private. They are created in the mornings when you wake up anyway. They are created in the evenings when you continue working after everyone else has stopped. They are created every time you choose your purpose over your comfort. Ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself this question. If your future self could speak to you right now, what would they ask you to do within the next 24 hours? Would they ask you to stop doubting yourself? Would they ask you to make that phone call? Would they ask you to finally begin the project you've been postponing? Would they ask you to forgive someone? Would they ask you to forgive yourself? Perhaps the future you're praying for is waiting for the decision you've been avoiding. Do not ignore that inner voice. Your intuition often knows the direction before your mind understands the reason. Trust it. Take one step, then another. You don't need to see the entire staircase to begin climbing. You only need enough courage to take the next step. Ladies and gentlemen, every sunrise is life whispering one beautiful message. You get another chance. Another chance to become more patient. Another chance to become more disciplined. Another chance to become more grateful. Another chance to become more loving. Another chance to become more authentic. Never waste today's opportunity because of yesterday's disappointment. Yesterday is a lesson. Today is a gift. Tomorrow is built by what you choose to do right now. So if you're watching this today, don't ask whether your life can change in the next 24 hours. Ask whether you are willing to change in the next 24 hours. Because when you change, everything around you begins to change as well. Because real transformation is never something that happens to you. It is something that happens within you. The world often convinces us that happiness is waiting somewhere in the future. It tells us when you earn more money, then you'll feel fulfilled. When you reach your goal, then you'll have peace. When the perfect opportunity arrives, then you'll finally become confident. But life doesn't work that way. Peace is not the reward at the end of the journey. Peace is the way you choose to walk the journey. Ladies and gentlemen, there is incredible power in deciding that this version of you is not the final version. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your greatest failure. You are not the criticism someone spoke over your life years ago. You are not the fear that has been following you. You are not the doubts that visit your mind. Those things are experiences. They are not your identity. every morning you wake up with the opportunity to introduce yourself to the world through your choices instead of your history. How freeing is that? Think about a sculptor standing before a block of stone. To everyone else, it looks ordinary, heavy, unfinished, but the sculptor already sees the masterpiece hidden inside. With every careful strike, another piece of unnecessary stone falls away. The masterpiece isn't created. It is revealed. Your life works the same way. Your purpose is already within you. Your courage is already within you. Your wisdom is already within you. The next 24 hours are not about becoming someone completely different. They are about removing the fear, excuses, and limiting beliefs that have been covering the person you already are. Ladies and gentlemen, don't underestimate the quiet decisions. Choosing gratitude instead of complaint. Choosing forgiveness instead of resentment. Choosing discipline instead of delay. Choosing faith instead of fear. No one may applaud those decisions. No one may even notice them, but they are shaping your destiny. The strongest foundations are built underground long before anyone sees the building. Likewise, the strongest character is built in private moments when no one is watching. That is where greatness begins. The world celebrates visible success. Life rewards invisible consistency. Remember that. There will be days when progress feels slow, days when nothing seems to change, days when you wonder if your efforts even matter. Keep going. A bamboo seed spends years developing roots before it breaks through the surface. To someone who doesn't understand the process, it appears as though nothing is happening. But beneath the ground, strength is being built. Your life may feel like that today. You may not see immediate results, but that doesn't mean transformation isn't taking place. Trust the process. Trust your growth. Trust the quiet work happening within you. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up tomorrow morning with a new agreement you make with yourself. I will no longer wait for permission to become who I was created to be. I will no longer allow fear to make my decisions. I will no longer speak to myself with words I would never say to someone I love. I will honor my purpose through my actions. I will protect my peace. I will believe that one small step today is more powerful than 1,000 perfect plans that never begin. If you lived by those promises, what would your life look like 1 year from now? 5 years from now? The future isn't created in giant leaps. It's created in today's choices. One choice becomes a habit. A habit becomes a lifestyle. A lifestyle becomes your legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one message I hope you carry with you after hearing these words, it is this: do not underestimate today. This day may look ordinary, but ordinary days become extraordinary lives when they are lived with purpose. The next 24 hours may contain the decision that changes your career, the conversation that heals a relationship, the habit that transforms your health, the prayer that renews your spirit, the act of courage that opens a door you never imagined possible. Do not let this moment pass believing that someone else will create your future. No one else can think your thoughts. No one else can make your choices. No one else can walk your path. That responsibility is not a burden. It is your greatest gift, because it means your future is not controlled by your past. It is influenced by what you decide today. So stand up with confidence. Walk forward with faith. Speak to yourself with kindness. Take action with courage. And trust that every step, no matter how small, is leading you toward the person you are meant to become. 1 year from now, you may look back at these next 24 hours and realize they were never just another day. They were the beginning of everything. Remember this timeless truth: your life does not change when the calendar changes. Your life changes the moment you do. So don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for perfect confidence. Don't wait until fear disappears. Choose now. Begin now. Believe now. Because the next 24 hours could change everything if you decide they will. Thank you.